Really thrilled to have my friend, the former senator and former Secretary of State, and the woman who should be President of the United States right now, Hillary Clinton. Welcome, Hillary. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Joe. It's a real pleasure to be here with you and to be part of this very important discussion. And I am thrilled to be part of your campaign to not only endorse you, but to help highlight a lot of the issues that are at stake in this presidential election. So I want to add my voice to the many who have endorsed you to be our president. Just think of what a difference it would make right now if we had a president who not only listened to the science.
We choose science over fiction.
Put facts over fiction.
We choose truth over facts.
But brought us together. Showed the kind of compassion and caring that we need from our president, and which Joe Biden has been exemplifying throughout his entire life.
And the only cure for that Trump derangement syndrome is 4 more years.
We're here to stand in support of Dr. Christine Blasey Ford and to applaud her courage as she prepares to tell her story. Again, we're joined by distinguished members of Congress whom I have acknowledged. In the interest of time, you know how great they are. They will make their remarks. But what's happening here has lifetime impact. The crimes themselves, the allegations that have been made are about offenses that have a lifetime impact, and a person whose name is putting forth a lifetime service on the Supreme Court. It's just not right. So there are 2 equities to be weighed. One equity is the integrity of the Supreme Court. The other equity to be weighed is the respect that we have for women when they come forward. Neither of those equities is well served by the process the Republican leadership in the Senate has put forth. It is not in the interest of seeking the truth, to promote the integrity, or to respect the privacy, as I mentioned. Instead of asking questions, the Republican leadership fears the truth. Instead of coming, when they're having a hearing, instead of asking an act of cowardice, the Republican,
Come on, try getting it out.
no offense, all-male committee has decided that they would have what they called a hired woman. Is that the expression they use? A hired woman to ask the questions. Really? They're so afraid of the truth, and they're so afraid of a woman, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, for the truth that she will tell. So right now, since we call this press conference, other allegations have come forward. I join Leader Schumer and calling for Judge Kavanaugh to withdraw his name from consideration. If he does not, at the very least, this hearing should be postponed because other allegations have come forth. We insist on an investigation. It's not even a vetting by the FBI, the normal vetting of the FBI of a federal appointee, in this case, for life, to the Supreme Court. Other members will talk about the impact of all of this, but if the Republican members of the committee, the Judiciary Committee in the Senate, decide to go forward, they have to know that they are having a demoralizing impact and a chilling effect on the entire movement of courageous women who are telling their stories and demanding justice. These men, they just can't possibly know. They can't possibly know. We're here to show our solidarity. We're here to show our respect for all women who have a case, have it respected, for due process, investigate, to find the truth, not fear it, and also to remember the responsibility we have to the integrity of the Supreme Court.
How do Democrats square with the idea that they're essentially they're standing by Biden, but they're using a comparatively different standard with Kavanaugh when you demanded a investigation on Justice Kavanaugh, when a very similar allegation came out on him.
Well, let me just say, I respect your question, and I don't need a lecture or a speech. Here's the thing.
Try getting it out. Try getting it out.
I have complete respect for the whole Me Too movement. I have 4 daughters and 1 son. And there's a lot of excitement around the idea that women will be heard and be listened to. There's also due process. And the fact that Joe Biden is Joe Biden, there's been statements from his campaign, or not his campaign, but his former employees who ran his offices and the rest, that there was never any record of this. There was never any record. And that nobody ever came forward, or nobody ever came forward to say something about it apart from the principal involved. I am so proud. The happiest day for me this week was to support Joe Biden for President of the United States. He's a person of great integrity, a great concern for the American people. He authored the Violence Against Women Act when he was the chair of the Judiciary Committee in the 90s. He has been an advocate for funding it all along since then. And I believe that he will be a great President of the United States. He is the personification of hope and optimism and authenticity for our country, a person of great values. So I want to remove all doubt in anyone's mind. I have great comfort level with the situation as I see it, with all the respect in the world for any woman who comes forward, with all the highest regard for Joe Biden. And that's what I have to say about that. Thank you. Thank you.
These people are sick.
Elections are about the future. Now more than ever, we need a forward-looking, battle-tested leader who will fight for the people. A president with the values, experience, and the strategic thinking to bring our nation together and build a better, fairer world for our children. For these and other reasons, I'm proud to endorse Joe Biden for president, a leader who is the personification of hope and courage, values, authenticity, and integrity. With so much at stake, we need the enthusiasm, invigoration, and participation of all Americans, up and down the ballot and across the country. With a Democratic majority in the House and Senate, we will deliver bold progress for the people when we have President Joe Biden in the White House. So please join me in supporting Joe and help move America forward.
Well, during the Obama years, Joe Biden didn't spend all of his time attending the funerals of foreign dictators or acting as the administration's emissary to Ukraine, where his son was getting rich at a do-nothing job. One of his other jobs was running the administration's Title IX policy. Before the Obama administration, most colleges handled claims of sexual harassment and sexual assault the way you'd probably want them handled if you were accused of doing something awful. Offenses were narrowly defined, as they are in court, rather than broadly, and the allegations required had to meet a high burden of proof, as they should. Under Biden's oversight, though, the Obama administration changed everything. They sent a letter to every one of this country's more than 4,000 colleges and universities with a stern warning. They said that schools would lose all federal funding unless they completely altered the way they treated sexual assault allegations on campus. Under the Biden rule, the accused were judged under the lowest standard of evidence. They were subjected to kangaroo courts where they could not effectively use legal counsel or contest the accusations against them. Across the country, and if you have kids in college, you know this is true, young men found their lives and their careers totally destroyed, not to mention their reputations, by accusations that were sometimes not only untrue, but laughably untrue. In at least one case, a student was expelled from college over an assault, even as police were criminally charging his accuser for filing a false police report in the same case. That was the America that Joe Biden created. What would happen if Joe Biden had to play by the same rules he made now? Well, he'd be done. Tara Reade's allegations are not proven. We don't know if they are true. But far weaker claims destroyed many young men on college campuses. But of course, Biden isn't playing by those rules and never would. Why isn't he forced to? Because the American feminist movement may be the single most corrupt movement in the world. It's more corrupt than the government of Equatorial Guinea. It's more corrupt than the World Health Organization. There is nothing more corrupt than institutional feminism. And if you want proof, look no further than Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York. 2 years ago, Gillibrand wanted Brett Kavanaugh's life and family destroyed. He was guilty, she said. She could feel it.
Her account is credible, and I believe her. We know that Judge Kavanaugh was not honest when he came to the Senate Judiciary Committee. She spoke her truth so bravely, so strongly, so honestly, and we believed her. Judge Kavanaugh has not asked to have the FBI review these claims. Is that the reaction of an innocent person? It is not. To refuse to treat this properly and try to confirm Judge Kavanaugh at any cost tells women that once again they are not important and they are not to be believed. I believe her because she's telling the truth.
And the only cure for that Trump derangement syndrome is 4 more years.
Has there ever been, in the last 235 years, a dumber person to serve in the United States Senate? Probably not. Her argument was Brett Kavanaugh has not demanded that the FBI forensically go through his entire life. He doesn't appear to trust the FBI. Therefore, he must be guilty. No trial needed. Well, yesterday, Gillibrand got her chance to respond to the allegations, the credible allegations that Tara Reade has made against Joe Biden. Even if you haven't already seen this, we bet you can guess what her response was.
She has come forward, she has spoken, and they've done an investigation in several outlets. Those investigations, Vice President Biden has called for himself. Vice President Biden has vehemently denied these allegations, and I support Vice President Biden.
Has Joe Biden begged the FBI to take a close look at his personal life over the past 50 years? Oh, he hasn't. He must be guilty. That's no longer her position. Why? Because political circumstances have changed. We want to be clear. We have no idea if Joe Biden actually did this. We hope not. It's awful. But the point is, in American politics, it doesn't matter. Here's your takeaway. Institutional feminism, the so-called feminist movement, is fake. It was never about women or believing women. They don't believe women. They don't care about women. They care about power. And that's why Gillibrand was friends with Harvey Weinstein and Bill Clinton. That's why she's friends with Joe Biden now. If you call yourself a male feminist and send enough checks to the Democratic Party, it doesn't matter how many actual women you hurt. Tammy Bruce hosts Get Tammy Bruce on Fox Nation. She joins us tonight. Tammy, you are very familiar with the so-called feminist movement, as distinct from individuals who consider themselves feminists. But I mean, based in Washington feminist movement. You spent time in it. Are you surprised by this?
No, not at all. I mean, this is in part why I left it. I've been a critic now for about a generation. It is, your monologue is absolutely correct. And it's not just that they're incompetent, that they do work that achieves the opposite of what they tell people they're doing. So they're the champions of women, and then they support men and enable men who damage women's lives, who harm women directly. But it's okay as long as you make our issues a fetish. If you demonstrate, oh, I'm going to fight for the Violence Against Women Act, that becomes your protection. And the argument always then is, and we saw this with Weinstein, we saw it with Bill Clinton, well, oh my gosh, he's doing so much for our issues. Don't complain because it'll hurt the movement. This has been almost an organized framework
of being able to victimize women, sex traffic in women, all in the name of, I am your champion, I am your helper. The ultimate dynamic, Tucker, which is also what abusers do, is that because of me, I can protect you, or if you hurt me,
right,
you will be hurt. This is the same dynamic. And Joe Biden, of course, look, I said during Kavanaugh, women should be taken seriously. But this, again, is about the hypocrisy, more than even hypocrisy, but the boldness of their hypocrisy. They know that they've been lying, and they don't care at this point.
These people are sick.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you be embarrassed if you were caught?
I think so. Yeah.
I sure would be. I mean,
Joe Biden led the effort for campuses to lower the burden of proof, to not allow people to be able to defend themselves, for even a third party to bring a complaint of sexual abuse or assault, when even the supposed victim would disagree that that had occurred. But we saw this play out, Tucker. We saw the Joe Biden theory play out during the Kavanaugh hearings. That was exactly the same thing. No due process, no fairness. And that is what Joe Biden stood up for and is pledged to bring back, by the way, to American campuses. So his attitude hasn't seemed to have changed.
Boy, I mean, we're all hypocrites on some level, but this level of hypocrisy is poison. It really is. Tammy Bruce, great to see you.
It is. Thank you, Tucker.
Some things just go well together. Salt and pepper, peanut butter and jelly, French toast and room service, Hillary Clinton, and ignoring serious sex abuse allegations. During the 1990s, Hillary Clinton defended her husband in the face of them. In the 2000s, she was a close confidant of Harvey Weinstein's. Her husband, meanwhile, flew around on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. But in 2018, Hillary Clinton pivoted completely. Brett Kavanaugh, you'll remember, was accused that year without any evidence of being a sexual predator. And Hillary Clinton said his accuser had to be believed.
Look, I watched as much of her testimony as I could. I found her very credible. I found her willingness to say, I don't remember that, but I remember this, to be very convincing.
Well, you know, things change. The only constant is change, and the political calculations of these questions has changed completely all of a sudden. So Hillary Clinton has rediscovered the value of skepticism and due process. Why? Two words, Tara Reid. That's a former Biden staffer who alleges that Biden sexually assaulted her. No, not sexually harassed, but assaulted physically. Today, Hillary Clinton didn't just endorse the man accused of that by a former staffer, Joe Biden. She gushed about Biden's character. Watch this.
We need a leader, a president like Joe Biden. I also know a lot about Joe, the person. I've seen him up close and personal now for many years. We have a lot of the same values in common, the kind of compassion and caring that we need from our president, and which Joe Biden has been exemplifying throughout his entire life.
You were probably too transfixed by Hillary Clinton to notice the guy next to her, Joe Biden. Biden fell asleep a couple times in the middle of that short oration. Poor Joe Biden. Hillary's probably staying up late right now figuring out how she can snatch the nomination from him. She doesn't believe all women. Janine Pirro does. She hosts Justice with Janine. She joins us tonight. Judge, thanks so much for coming on. So this is almost too easy, but I have to get your view of this. Hillary Clinton has pivoted once more, and now she thinks we should pause before judging.
You know, Hillary Clinton endorsing Joe Biden when he's being accused of, as you say, not sexual harassment, but sexual assault, is like the kiss of death. The woman is literally a standard bearer, the magnet, the enabler for sexual predators, whether it had to do with her husband, who was credibly accused of raping Juanita Broderick, who had a busted lip, disheveled clothes, and made an immediate outcry, or her laughing about the rapist who raped a 12-year-old into a coma, or her emails that were were found on Anthony Weiner's laptop, or Jeffrey Epstein, or hanging out with Weinstein when everyone in Hollywood knew what was going on. Need I go on? But let me just say this about her. This woman is a woman who does not stand for women. And for her right now to endorse Joe Biden is really to ignore what all of the Me Too movement has been talking about when they yelled at us during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. All women need to be believed, except if they're Republican or except if they're accusing a Democrat. Let's talk about Brett Kavanaugh and Tara Reade. Tara Reade accusing Joe Biden, and I come to this, Tucker, as a prosecutor and as a judge. I started a sex crimes unit in the DA's office. I know this business very well. Tara Reade, made an immediate outcry. A recent outcry is a contemporaneous report, and it holds a lot of weight in a criminal courtroom in a sex offense case. And what that means is that it is admissible evidence, and the jury is allowed to find the victim more credible if she made an outcry. Tara Reade made an outcry to her mother, her brother, her friend, and we found out yesterday her neighbor, who supports Joe Biden, but who says Tara Reade doesn't lie. Tara Reade also made a recent outcry to the people in the Senate. This happened to her when she was working for Joe Biden. And when she made the complaint to 3 people about Joe Biden pushing her up against a wall in the Senate when no one else was around, pulling up her skirt and putting his, I'm not going to get graphic here, but sexually abusing her.
How dare you?
Shame on you.
They moved her away from where she had been working in the Senate office to a room with no windows, and all 3 interns that she oversaw as a supervisor can attest to the fact that she was abruptly taken away as their supervisor. And finally, we have documentary evidence that she worked with Joe Biden. We have Senate records. And the mother, even though the mother passed, complained to Larry King. We have that evidence in 1993 when this happened. Now, when it came to Kavanaugh, Christine Blasey Ford didn't know the date, time, place, or year, and she not only didn't have any corroboration, there was negative corroboration. And what I mean by that is people that Christine Blasey Ford said were with her when Brett Kavanaugh assaulted her said, no, we weren't.
We choose truth over facts.
So this is just politics, pure, unadulterated politics. It's about power, supporting people who you want to be in power. It has nothing to do with women and protecting women in the system.
Well, it's nothing to do with women. I'm not much of a feminist. I would never hang around with Harvey Weinstein and Bill Clinton. It really tells you a lot about her. Judge Jean, thank you for that. Good to see you tonight. Turning to new developments, Biden's sexual assault allegations. We do shift gears. The mob, the media, well, they're doing the best to prop up probably the worst presidential candidate in history. And for weeks, they have successfully avoided asking Joe Biden anything about the sexual assault claims that are significant and serious and shocking. In fact, to date, they've asked Donald Trump, your president, more questions about Biden's alleged assault than Biden himself. By the way, they've asked him none. In 10 appearances, 81 questions. None on this. They don't ask any people being mentioned to be a vice presidential candidate running mate with him. That's all about to change. Tomorrow morning, Biden is set to address the allegations for the very first time. And this, as Business Insider reporting, the Biden campaign officially accessed Senate files housed at the University of Delaware that may contain information about Ms. Reade's allegations. And get this, yeah, they accessed those files in 2019. None of this matters to Speaker Pelosi because she's already endorsed Biden, even though she once fully supported all the I believers and Kavanaugh accusers that didn't have half of what Tara Reade had. And she could care less about the very serious claims here. We're going to have a then and now Pelosi montage that you're going to want to see coming up later in the program. But first, joining us, Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce, Judicial Crisis Network President Carrie Severino. Tammy, I begin with you. Well, there were corroborating witnesses, a police report, and then a haunting call. And I don't mean this in a bad way. It's like her mom, Tara Reade's mom, who passed away in 2016, coming back to say, I want to help you, to her daughter, the call to Larry King. They didn't have that with the professor.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary unfolding of the truth in front of people. And you said, you know, we're shifting gears here. This, in fact, is just an offshoot of the same sewer that we've been dealing with Michael Flynn and with what the media and the establishment's been trying to do to the president.
These people are sick.
And the only cure for that Trump derangement syndrome is 4 more years.
They are beyond hypocrites. They know what it is they're doing, and they do not care. So you've got now women who were, you know, believe all women, believe all the survivors, including what we'll hear apparently from Nancy Pelosi. Well, what this tells you is that the Me Too movement was a fraud. And every woman listening to this program or hearing it in a clip, whether you be a liberal or a conservative or an independent or whoever you are, this issue, as we know, does not discriminate. It doesn't matter for those of us who've been through domestic violence or sexual assault or stalking or anything else. We know this is serious. And the women now who are ignoring or supporting Joe Biden, but just saying that it just doesn't matter and not believing Ms. Reade, shows you their own level of hypocrisy and cynicism and the lie that they've been perpetrating for the last several years in an attempt to use women and get their votes.
Carrie, we have about less than a minute. I'm sorry we're just short on time. We're running through a lot of issues tonight.
Yeah, you know, Joe Biden has said about Mayor Bloomberg, he has to get rid of these NDAs and release documents. He wants the press to fully vet these claims, but he's in possession of lots of documents at the University of Delaware that would help clarify this. He's hiding those, and we have all of these women lining up who supported intense investigations to Kavanaugh. They don't care about having a word from Biden. The silence from them and the silence from Biden is deafening.
All right, good points on both of you. Thank you both. Carrie, Tammy, as always. All right, Biden is going to finally speak out. Tara Reade, sexual assault allegation. Democrats have been doing everything they can to be hypocrites, deflect, distract from the story. A gross display of hypocrisy, especially with Nancy Pelosi leading the way. Take a look.
Kavanaugh, when he demanded a investigation on Justice Kavanaugh, when a very similar allegation came out on him.
Let me just say, I respect your question, and I don't need a lecture or a speech. In the event, we're here to show our solidarity. We're here to show our respect for all women who have a case, have it respected, to due process, to investigate, to find the truth, not fear it. I have complete respect for the whole Me Too movement. I have 4 daughters and 1 son, and there's a lot of excitement around the idea that women will be heard and be listened to. What's happening here has lifetime impacts. The crimes themselves, the allegations that have been made are about offenses that have a lifetime impact. There is also due process, and the fact that Joe Biden is Joe Biden, instead of asking questions, the Republican leadership fears the truth.
We choose truth over facts.
Here now, former White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Fox News contributor Karl Rove. All right, Dr. Rove. Hypocrisy's obvious, breathtaking. Your take, what impact?
Well, it's not only the elected officials like Nancy Pelosi. Thanks for the whiteboard, incidentally. It showed up. Let's take a look at the media here on the chalkboard you sent me with my Crayola chalk.
Oh, my God.
You. Really
lying. But go ahead.
You're lying. Think about this. It's not just Nancy Pelosi who's in a pickle over this. We have the New York Times. Took 19 days for them to write a story about this. The story broke on the 25th of March. They finally wrote about it on April 12th.
And I think they think it's good politics. I don't think it's good politics. I think it's bad politics, but I don't care about the politics.
We now have 6 people who've stepped forward to support Miss Reed in her allegations. Her brother, Colin Moulton, her mother, who shows up on a tape, a contemporaneous tape, calling into the Larry King show. Two colleagues from hers in California, one a neighbor and one a colleague. And at least one anonymous person talked to the Washington Post. At least 2 talked to the New York Times. It seems like they also talked to the AP. So we have 6 people who say, they told me about this. Now, but it took still 19 days for the New York Times to even do a story about it. The news critic, the media critic for the New York Times asked the editor, Dean Paquette, why didn't you write a story earlier? And he said, look at what you did with Kavanaugh. And look what you did with Swetnick and Avenatti. She comes out and says the outrageous things about Justice Kavanaugh. She's supported by Avenatti, the notorious attorney. And what happens? They immediately write a story the same day. So the news critic for the Times asked his boss, why didn't you treat this the same way? And he said, well, Kavanaugh was already in a public forum in a large way. Well, I think that the presumptive dominee of the Democratic Party is already in a public forum. Final point. He said, Kavanaugh was a running hot story. Well, the Vice President of the United States, former Vice President of the United States, nominee of the Democratic Party, he's in a running hot story too.
These people are sick.
Joe Biden went on MSNBC this morning to deny that he sexually assaulted his former staff member, Tara Reid. In the last 4 years, MSNBC has transitioned from a left-leaning news channel into a highly aggressive political operation dedicated to doing rapid response for the Democratic Party. If Media Matters had a TV station, it would be MSNBC. Needless to say, the channel has shilled relentlessly for Joe Biden. But surprisingly, and to her credit, this morning, host Mika Brzezinski asked a legitimate and pretty tough question of Joe Biden, and then she kept asking it. Why, she wondered, doesn't Biden simply order a search of his papers at the University of Delaware for any references to Tara Reid? Simple question. Biden seemed completely baffled by it.
To the best of my knowledge, no one else has done that either.
I'm just talking about her name, not anybody else in those records. A search for that.
Come on, try getting it out.
Nothing classified to the president or anybody else. I'm just asking, why not do a search for Tara Reid's name in the University of Delaware records?
Look, I mean, who does that search?
The University of Delaware. Perhaps you set up a commission that can do it. I don't know. Whatever is the fairest way to create the most transparency.
Well, this is, look, Mika.
Mika Brzezinski went after Biden in a fair way, totally legitimate way, but she was tough enough that you sort of wonder, what is this about? This is someone who sucks up to Democratic politicians relentlessly, but she's pretty hard on Biden. Could it be a sign the Democratic establishment has decided, we can't win with this guy? It's over. Maybe it's time to get him off the stage. No evidence of that, but it's interesting. Another interesting thing is that Biden has already ordered a search of his papers housed in the National Archives for references to Tara Reid, but refuses to order a search of his vast archive at the University of Delaware. Those papers are sealed. We can't see them. And at this point, we can't even know why we can't see them, because the gift agreement that Biden signed with the University of Delaware is also sealed. It's possible Biden received a hefty payment for his papers. Many people do. The school denies that, so for now we have no choice but to take their word for it because we're not allowed to know. No transparency at all. And that seems odd. The University of Delaware is a public institution. Doesn't the public have a right to know what deals the schools they fund are making with politicians?
These people are sick.
And as it turns out, no, the public has no right to know what the University of Delaware is doing with its money. Biden cut his deal with the University of Delaware's Board of Trustees. You won't be too shocked to learn that the head of that board is a longtime credit card salesman called John Cochran. He's the former CEO of MBNA. Joe Biden spent much of his Senate career as a dutiful water carrier for the high-interest credit card business, even as so many of his constituents drowned in debt. And Cochran appears to be a key reason why Joe Biden did that. Cochran regularly sent Biden money over the years. He gave Joe Biden's son a lucrative job. At one point, Cochran even bought Biden's home in Wilmington for what was clearly an above-market price. And by the way, Cochran is not alone. According to reporting by Greg Ree at FoxNews.com, at least 7 other board members of the University of Delaware have also contributed to Joe Biden's political campaigns. And now they're protecting him when he needs it. Even by the standards of a small state, that looks like corruption. This show has filed an open records request with the University of Delaware to find out more. We have a right to, and we'll tell you what we find. The hypocrisy, the deceit that is the modern extreme Democratic Radical Socialist Party. Now, for weeks, Joe Biden, well, he has done his best to ignore sexual assault allegations levied against him by a former staffer. Her name is Tara Reade, too graphic to repeat on television. I guess Mika did it, but we won't. Anyway, already today, top Democrats across the country have tried to give Biden cover with glowing endorsements. The mob, the media, they asked him not one single question about the Reade allegation. The I believers were nowhere to be found and still are, and after a mountain of corroborating evidence emerged in this case surrounding Reade's allegations, the media was guilted into covering the story, and Biden was finally forced to answer serious questions about the accusations. And I do tip my hat. I think Mika did a good job. Take a look.
To use your words, should we not start off with the presumption that the essence of what she's talking about is real? She says you sexually assaulted her.
Look, from the very beginning, I've said believing women means taking the woman's claims seriously. When she steps forward and then vet it, look into it. That's true in this case as well. Women have a right to be heard, and the press should rigorously investigate claims they make. I'll always uphold that principle. But in the end, in every case, the truth is what matters. And in this case, the truth is the claims are false.
We choose truth over facts.
How dare you?
How dare you?
Fire up a bowl and accept your fate. All right, as the left now, are they going to treat Biden the way they treated Kavanaugh? Will they now demand an investigation? Will they say, I believe her, the way they did with the Kavanaugh accusers, even though they didn't have half the corroboration? They didn't have any, actually, nor did they have a police report, nor did they have a haunting call from the mother of any of the accusers. Are they going to comb through Biden's decades-old yearbooks from high school like they did Kavanaugh? Will they call for him to step down as their party's nominee? Will they say, I believe, in this case, Tara Reade? Because that's what they demanded in the Kavanaugh case without any corroborating evidence whatsoever. The Reade case, she has it. She has witnesses. She has the mother's phone call. She filed a report. But at the very least, if Joe has nothing to hide and he really wants to be transparent like he says he does and get to the truth like he says he wants, he can just release all the personnel files on Tara Reade. Now, they are reportedly stored at the University of Delaware with Biden's Senate records. Now, we know his staff was in there already. Biden doesn't seem interested in that level of transparency. Speaks volumes. Take a look.
Why not approve a search of her name in those records?
Approve a search of her name?
Yes, and reveal anything that might be related to Tara Reade in the University of Delaware records.
There is nothing. They wouldn't. They're not there. And if they, I don't understand what the point you're trying to make.
Nothing classified to the president or anybody else. I'm just asking, why not do a search for Tara Reade's name in the University of Delaware records?
Look, I mean, who does that search?
Joe kind of seems like he's hiding something or maybe just malfunctioning as usual. Now, we all know he's not working with a fastball or even a curve, and I don't even think he has a soft pitch at this point, for that matter. It's actually really hard to watch. But when you remember, as Grabian.com pointed out just a few months ago, Biden was promoting himself as a champion of all victims. Rampant hypocrisy. Just like with quid and pro and quo and zero experience Hunter, and you're not getting the billion. Take a look.
The woman woman should be given the benefit of the doubt and not be abused again by the system. So why do you think women who get raped, so many don't report it? They don't want to get raped again by the system. It's all about the abuse of power, number one. Number two, women should be believed. No man has a right to lay a hand on a woman, no matter what she's wearing, what she does, who she is, unless you can affirmatively give consent. It's rape. Unless you affirmatively consent. Anybody engaged in that behavior is committing a crime. So much has changed about how the public understands the pressure on women. And I've learned a lot as well, too.
Is a Class A hypocrite. What happened, Joe? You no longer believe that women should be given the benefit of the doubt now that it's you on the other side of this? What about the, allegations, the, 7 or 8 of them against you already? And what about the endless stream of creepy footage of you, getting way too close to just about every female you can in sight? Is this really the champion for women? That Democratic Party? Is that the one they're going to nominate, really?
These people are sick.
As it turns out, most Democrats never really seem to care about the issue, because if they did, they would either take our position, which is the presumption of innocence, take it seriously, look at the facts, let people decide. That's the way, it works in this society. But if you're a Republican and conservative, I believe you're a Democrat, silence. They were just using it as a political weapon, weren't they, in the Kavanaugh case and against Trump. The hypocrisy probably never been worse than this. Take a look.
I believe Dr. Ford, and to me, Judge Kavanaugh has shown so clearly he does not have the temperament or credibility to serve on the Supreme Court.
The courage she showed was remarkable. Dr. Ford's testimony was credible and compelling. I believe Dr. Ford.
Not only do women like Dr. Ford, who bravely comes forward, need to be heard, but they need to be believed.
I believe Dr. Ford. I believe the survivor here. There's every reason to believe her. I believe Professor Ford. I think she's credible.
And the only cure for that Trump derangement syndrome is 4 more years.
And Nancy Pelosi, she's going to the mat for Biden. Today, we reached out to, dozens of Democratic I Believer lawmakers for a response. Not one person had anything supportive to say about Tara Reade, not a single one. Most didn't even get back to us. The I Believers in the Democratic Party have conveniently evaporated into thin air and utterly taking in breathtaking hypocrisy, just like with the quid and the pro and the quo and pretty much everything else. If you're a Democrat, you're a liberal, you get a pass. If you're a conservative, you get bludgeoned to death.
These people are sick.
Breathtaking groupthink hypocrisy. Democratic Party, they don't care about power. We're consistent here. We believe in the presumption of innocence and that you're innocent until proven guilty. But take it seriously, sure. Everybody should. It's important. And the worst part, the mob, the media, actively assisting them every step of the way. As late as September 2019, WAPO, yes, Eric Pimple's paper, the Washington Post, they were still plotting Kavanaugh's demise. One headline reading, quote, while calls for Justice Kavanaugh's impeachment are mounting, here's how it could work. And here's how the Post covered the accusations against Biden. Developments in the allegations against Biden amplify efforts to question his behavior. What does that even mean? Meanwhile, the New York Toilet Paper Times actually worked with the Biden campaign to remove language about Biden's misconduct from one of their articles. Wow, hand in hand, they work together. And now one devout Democrat pretending to be a news host just said that Reade's allegations were part of a right-wing smear campaign. Really? When in doubt, blame the conservatives. Take a look.
The right isn't running an intellectually honest operation to get to the bottom of whether Tara Reade was victimized. The right is running a smear campaign against Joe Biden.
We choose truth over facts.
That's it. Okay, Nicole, you say so. You, Steve Schmidt, and Joe, we'll listen to all that. And for the mob and the media, they're partners in the Democratic Party, because that's state-run conspiracy TV television, right? Let's be honest. Politics comes first. For them, it's not about principles, not about victims' rights, not about, well, due process, a constitution. They don't seem to care about any of that, the presumption of innocence. The only one thing they care about is power and winning. That's it, and control of your life. Now, we are 186 days away, and you are the ultimate jury. The choice is going to be clear. You will decide the fate of this great republic. And by the way, no hyperbole, everything, including our way of life, hanging in the balance.
Speaker, I also want to ask you about former Vice President Joe Biden and about this allegation that is being made by one of his former Senate staffers. Do you think that it is time for Vice President Biden to address this head-on himself?
Well, I have great sympathy for any women who bring forth an allegation. I'm a big, strong supporter of the Me Too movement. I think it's been made a great contribution to our country, and I do support Joe Biden. I'm satisfied with how he has responded. I know him. I was proud to endorse him on Monday. Very proud to endorse him, and so I'm satisfied with that.
I mean, he hasn't, to be clear, he hasn't addressed it. His campaign has addressed it, but he has not directly addressed it. Should he directly, publicly address it?
You know, it's a matter that he has to deal with, but I am impressed with the people who worked for him at the time saying they absolutely never heard one iota of information about this. Nobody ever brought forth a claim or had anybody else tell them about such a claim.
These people are sick.